The best way to influence people is to collaborate with them, and the best way to collaborate is one conversation at a time. Here's the 6 moments that matter in a collaborative conversation to influence. Let's take a look at each in turn.
It's a fine goal, to be sure.
Now, the first aspect of a collaborative conversation to influence is clearly the goal. Now, this is something that you're thinking about and you're writing down and clarifying before the conversation even takes place. And that goal's got a couple of different perspectives. The first aspect of it is, what outcome are you after by the end of the conversation? What outcome's going to serve you both? And that's got a couple of considerations you might want to think about. You might want to think about what's going to be different about what they're thinking about you or your organisation, or how they're thinking about you and your organisation. What's going to be different about what they're doing right now? Are they engaged with someone else or a different partner, a different supplier, a different provider that you might want to change? Or most importantly, perhaps, what's going to be different about how they're feeling? You might want to increase their level of confidence and trust in you and what you're recommending. Now, the second major aspect of this goal is a sense of purpose or meaning. What is this relationship with this person developing? And we all know, we all want a sense of meaning and purpose in what we're doing, and without going to extreme lengths by building the picture a bit too big, what is it you can achieve together that's really worthwhile achieving?
Come on.
Now, the second moment that matters in a collaborative conversation to influence is to begin the conversation by relating. Now, there's been tons written on building personal rapport and professional rapport. The best advice that I've learned over the past 10 years or so has been to get very present myself, get very present and very mindful, and then give the gift of my presence to the other person.
Would you like it gift wrapped?
You'll know that they'll sense this, and there's no better gift you can give someone than the gift of your presence and the gift of your full attention. And then you will, as you know, subconsciously pick up all those cues and clues you need to continue building that relationship and building that rapport. Now, sometimes rapport lasts a long time and sometimes it doesn't. Some people like lots of personal rapport and catching up on kids and pets and families and relationships. That's terrific. Others want to get straight to business. Now, when you've given them your full attention, you'll get a sense, because they'll give you a cue as to when to get on with the business part of the meeting. And when you get this cue, it's time for moment number 3, which is to take the lead. Now, this doesn't mean leading in a dominating sense. It means leading by giving the meeting some structure. And you give the conversation some structure by answering 4 key questions that they have. And that is, why is the meeting taking place? From their perspective, your perspective, and the overall purpose that we talked about earlier. The second is, what outcome are we after? Where are we going to be at the end of this conversation? The third is, how do you plan to get there with the agenda that you recommend or suggest? And the fourth is the so what part. So what are we going to have at the end of this meeting, and how can we transfer that outcome into building an overall relationship and outcome that's good for both of you?
Oh, I don't know, Flo. I haven't had a chance to find out, but I'm going to find out.
The fourth moment that matters in a collaborative conversation to influence is the understanding step. And this, in my view, is the most important of the lot, because as Stephen Covey suggested in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, seek first to understand before seeking to be understood. Now, you're not clearly understanding them completely. You're understanding how they make decisions, because you'd like to influence that decision by making recommendations to them. And when you think about them making decisions, they're making decisions based on decision-making values, and we've all got them. Every decision we make involves values.
You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland.
There's 4 things that you need to know about what these decision-making values are, and you can ask whatever questions you need to in the way that you like to ask questions to find these things out. But whatever technique you use, you've got to arrive at these 4 things. The first is what their decision-making values are, and you can just simply ask them, hey, what's most important to you when you're making a decision like this, or what's most important to you in this area. The second is what order and sequence are they in? So you get a sense of priority, and you might also want to ask, how do you rank those? And you may find sometimes that the customers or stakeholders or donors that you're talking to may not know the priorities because it's been so long since they've thought about this. The third aspect is what they mean, and this is the most important thing, because you'll find the people that you find most challenging to influence are the people that have very different meanings for the same things. And the fourth aspect of their decision-making values you need to be aware of is what they want to do most to avoid. Now, when I'm teaching this in workshops, this is a question people find least comfortable to ask, but it may be the most important question. It's a question like, what do you want to avoid most here? Or what is it that concerns you most? And when you've got the right level of trust and relationship, you'll get honest answers to these questions. And what you'll find as you dig into these values, you'll find that they'll fall into 4 overall categories. They'll be in categories like relationship, power, security and reward, and once you start understanding those, you've built a platform to properly influence them.
I'm going to make them an offer he can't refuse.
Once you understand their decision-making values, it's time for step number 5, which is to make a recommendation. Now, you're making a recommendation based on their values, and some folks call this a value proposition. It could be called a recommendation, could be called a proposal. It depends on what stage of the relationship that you happen to be in with this particular person. Ideally, you can recommend something based on their values, or you might need to make a recommendation to change something about their decision-making values, what they are, what they mean, or what their order and priority are.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
After you've made your recommendation, you're going to get 1 of 3 potential answers. Yes, which is a great answer. No, which is a great answer too, because we don't want to waste time with people pretending they're agreeing with us or pretending that things are going to progress when they're really not. You can spend that time and resources on other projects you can progress. Or the third option is a maybe. It might not be a yes, might be a no, it might be somewhere in the middle. Now, if you get that maybe, you may need to circle back to the understanding stage to find out what you don't know about this decision-making values, or you might need to have a very simple negotiation so that the agreement leaves you both better off, which is the heart of a collaborative conversation, something where people genuinely like talking to you because they feel like it's a worthwhile way to spend their time because they're achieving important outcomes with you. So they're the 6 moments that matter in a collaborative conversation, and collaboration, one conversation at a time, is the best way to influence people.